brilliant people. So today I'm going to talk to you about intuition and the process of transformation. Now that's actually really quite important for what's really going on in the world at the moment, because when we study the process of transformation, which is connected to something called dissipative structures, you can read about it in my book if you like. Some of the original work was done by a chap called Ilya Prigogine, but what it actually teaches us is that, not surprisingly, when we're going through a process of transformation, our old structure gets broken down. That's never comfortable, but that's often what we call stress. Now, once the old structure has broken down sufficiently, we're left with three possible outcomes. One is what sciencey types would call entropy, meaning it just keeps breaking down. One is reversion, meaning it just goes back to the way it was. But the third option is transformation. So what do we do? So, because the thing is, of course, we don't want entropy. We don't want things to continue to break down. So when we're going through transformation, the more that we feel safe and comfortable through that process, in other words, the more that we can manage our stress, the less likely that's going to happen. When for things to go back, to the way they were, well, that's okay. That's where that sort of rule about, first do no harm comes from. In other words, if the choice is between things breaking down completely and going back to the way they were, well, maybe let's go back to the way they were. But fortunately, there's always the third option, which is transformation. The problem is that in order for us to transform, that process really only completes once we have a clear template on what that new structure is going to look like. So this is one of the reasons why focusing and visualizing on our future, particularly feeling how wonderful our new future, how brilliant it's going to be, that's why that works. Now, of course, with fractology, we have very specific ways of doing that, because with fractology, we can actually use your fractal pattern to create within your own energy system to help your system access that new template. Now, why is that particularly important for what's going on right now? Well, because right now you can see it all around the world. Like, we know that the old ways that we've been doing things, the right, wrong ways, the kind of dominator control hierarchies, these people are right, those people are wrong, whatever. We know that doesn't work. And so many of the old systems are breaking down. Many people are freaking out. And, in fact, the pandemic is in many ways a perfect encapsulation of this. It's kind of like there's all these people who are saying, well, if you don't get vaccinated, you're being really selfish, you're not considering other people. This is true. And then there are other people going, well, my rights as an individual and my own health and my choices around my own health are mine to make. This is also true. So the question is, how do they both work? Because this is the thing, is that this is what society is really struggling with, is like we either do group think or we do individual think. Well, actually, see, interdependency is about doing both. So what do we do? Well, we actually start to understand that we have to find a way for both of them to work. So part of that is understanding that, like with the pandemic, yes, vaccines work, but yes, there is a risk or a downside to vaccines. So whatever you do, you're going to have to make sure that what you do works for you, but also works for the community. So in other words, if you're not going to get vaccinated, well, you're going to have to live with that, which means also perhaps making sure that you are healthy enough that your immune system is going to get rid of the vaccine anyway. I do think that one answer to that would be if we had more reliable testing, and so that yes, instead of having a vaccine or a vaccine passport, you could have an antibody passport. So not just that you're negative for COVID, but that your body, that you've been exposed to it, because we're all gonna get exposed to it one way or another, either through the vaccine or through somebody who's actually got it. So the passport should, in my opinion, be an antibody passport, and you can get that either by getting the vaccine or by just your immune system working. Anyway, I don't really want to get into pandemic arguments. My point is that we need a template for the future, because once we actually have a clear way through that works for everybody, once people start to understand more about how to operate a whole society from an interdependent basis, then we'll be able to move forward more easily. So you can help with that by focusing on the kind of way the world would be when you are living from your brilliance, and everybody around you is also living from their brilliance, and we're all supporting each other to live from their brilliance. So the more that you can work with that, and also you might want to look at my other video on the collective mind, because that also gives us a way by hooking into the web of life rather than some kind of codependent structure, that helps us also energetically connect to a more interdependent structure. Anyway, this was a little rambly, but my whole point is that in order to move through the current transformation, we need a clear interdependent template to work from, and there are ways to do that, primarily by understanding that kind of society isn't fixated on trying to figure out who's wrong or who's to blame, but is more focused on supporting everybody to be brilliant. So there you are. So do your best to focus on that idea as the template for for the future of humanity, and that will help all of us move forward and all of us be brilliant. So until next time, remember that you're brilliant.